It's a cold, windy day in the mountains of southern Appalachia. Matt and I wanted to go on a walk and go down to the creek and look around, look at our new garden that we're going to be planting in the coming months. But it's just too cold.
We actually went outside and somebody chickened out.
It's just too cold for me. It's not the cold, it's the wind. We've got a strong wind. What is it, 15, 20 miles an hour wind?
It's about 30 degrees and cold.
Yeah. And it is flurrying. It was flurrying pretty good, but looks like you just see some little cotton things. Looks like every once in a while like a piece of cotton flowing by, or like milkweed in the fall, but so a few snowflakes, but still no snow laying on the ground.
No.
So Matt said he was going to go downstairs and sharpen on one of his axe, and I said a lot of people have been asking about knife sharpening, so maybe he could not give a lesson, but just kind of give an overview of what he does for his knives and his axes too. And he was going to make him some coffee. So then I said, well, there's a lot of people too ask about the percolators that Matt likes to drink coffee out of. That's what you've been using for many years, right?
Yeah.
And usually on weekdays, especially when Matt was working, what he uses, we've got one over here that's an electric percolator, and he used it because you just plug it in and that's all you got to do. But if he's got extra time, he likes to use the old-fashioned kind that you put on the stove or on the wood stove. And this one, he's got several of them, but this one Corey got you for Christmas. Yeah, so he got a new one this year for Christmas. Really nice.
Actually, I saw it in a thrift store or whatever, and and liked it, and she went back, I guess the same trip, and bought it, and I didn't
know about it.
And then when I opened it for Christmas, she asked me if I recognized it, and I said, am I supposed to? And then she mentioned about that day, and I said, oh yeah, I do remember that now.
Wonder how old it is. Is there a way to tell? I don't guess.
I don't think it's real old, but it's a pretty good one because it's all stainless, and the internal parts are stainless. And some of these I've got are not. They're got aluminum insides, and they don't fit good, and it's aggravating, but I like this one. One
of Matt's favorite ones that he had for years and years. How long? 20 years or something?
30 years.
30 years, long time. His favorite one. One time when he was deer hunting, kind of camping out, my uncle, was it Ray that done that? Uncle Ray accidentally melted the bubble part of it, the top part.
Yeah, he had it in the fire. We had a fire going, and he stuck it in the fire, and it melted the bubble. And it kind of slid off to one side, but it didn't, it would still work. So when the coffee came up, it would kind of lay over and roll back up. It was real funky looking.
But you used it like that for a long time.
Used it like that a long time, and it finally broke. And then I ended up buying one on, I think, Amazon, just a universal one. And it never would fit good, and I kept having to adjust on it all the time, and I finally just got tired of it and quit using it, and then I ended up with another one or two, and then Corey got me this one, and I like this one.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
So Matt, I don't drink coffee anymore. I used to drink coffee, but in those days, most of the time we made our coffee on those weekday mornings when we were in a hurry heading off to work. It was just in a Mr. Coffee Maker or whatever. We just used one of them. And Matt would use, somewhere along the way, Matt got his percolator, but I think that was, I don't know when that was.
I do. You got it for me for Christmas.
Oh, did I? Oh, well, I was good, wasn't I?
About 3 or 4 years ago.
Has it only been that long?
Yeah.
Seems like you've had it longer than that.
Yeah.
Well, then definitely I was using the Mr. Coffee in the days I was drinking it.
Well, I was too, but I don't
like it.
I don't like it because it's plastic.
Anyway, I had to quit drinking coffee, and then I guess I was smart. I did get you that, huh?
Well, I asked for it.
I totally forgot. Anyway, I don't even know how to use a percolator because Matt does it all. In the Mr. Coffee days, that was easy. You just put it in there, and I don't know if we'd ever had one that had it, or did we have any that had like where you could make it turn on by itself, or we just had the cheap push the button?
I don't remember if we ever had one. We never did do it that way. If we did, we just put it in there and pushed a button.
Anyway, I've never used a percolator, and we've had a lot of people in our comments say, and on the blog and on the YouTube email and stuff, and say, how does that exactly work, and are they better, and all that kind of stuff. Well, anytime somebody asks you if something's better, that's all personal preference.
Right.
Me and Matt don't know that for sure that it's better. I mean, Matt thinks it's better for his coffee. He likes it a lot better, but you might not. Anyway, but I thought since we were going to go downstairs, Matt's going to make him some coffee. I'm just going to make some hot chocolate for me, and we'll get him to show us his knife stuff and his axe stuff, that he could show us how to actually make a pot of coffee in a percolator.
I think that one's cracked. Is it?
Maybe inside. I don't know if that's cracked or if that's just part of it.
Alright, so here's the guts inside the coffee maker. This is the actual coffee filter where the coffee grounds go. And this is the stem in there that it sets on. So I'm going to put the water in. I'm not going to make a full pot because I can't drink that much during the day. So I'm just going to make however much that right there will make. I'll still use the same amount of coffee grounds just because I like it a little stronger. And you just put the coffee grounds in the filter. I usually put about 4 good spoonfuls.
But you like yours strong. That's pretty strong.
It's really not that strong.
Oh, okay. Well,
to me, it's not. I mean, I've had way stronger coffee, but this is just the way I like it. And it puts it in there. You don't want to go over the stem hole, you know.
Yeah.
But that'll make it plenty strong enough. And then this just sits on the stem.
And that sits.
And what happens when this the water in the pot begins to boil, the water will stay underneath this filter, but it will rise up through this stem, and it will come out this hole and just percolate over onto the top of this filter and drift right back down through the coffee and back into the bottom of the pot. And it just keeps doing that and keeps recirculating, and as each time it does that, it begins to get a little stronger and a little stronger. So you can perk it as long or as little as you want. I usually perk it about, I don't know, 5-6 minutes. Not real hard. If it goes real hard, sometimes it will either scorch or it'll knock this filter off to one side, and some of your grounds will get out. And there'll be a few grounds get out anyway, but they'll settle in the bottom. But that's just generally how it works. You put that in there and close it up, and then you can see in this bubble when the water begins to perk, it will perk all the way up into this bubble, and that's just a visual indicator that it's now beginning to percolate, and then you can begin to time it from that however long you want it to go.
So I guess as far as like you're saying, people just have to play around and see how long they want to perk it, or
yeah. I mean, I like this because you can, if power goes out, you can still have coffee. If you got a gas cooker or a wood stove or a Coleman stove or whatever, you can still have coffee, and it's just more old-timey than the new ways of doing things. And to me, percolated coffee does have a different taste, and to me it's better. My daddy, on the other hand, don't like it for whatever reason. I don't know, but he just don't. So when we're deer hunting at deer camp, we use just a regular Mr. coffee maker, and I just deal with it, you know. But I like this much better.
one thing everybody's going to want to know is like, what kind of coffee do you like? Are you picky about your coffee?
I ain't real picky. I like 8 o'clock coffee, the original 8 o'clock, and that's what I generally drink. But I can drink any of it, for the most part.
You don't like the flavored kind, all that kind of stuff?
No, and I drink it black. I don't drink it with any cream or any sugar or none of that stuff. Just plain old black coffee. I'm just kind of boring. That's what I like. Alright, while we're waiting on that coffee to perk, I'm going to sharpen on a knife and a couple of axes. This knife's not real dull, but it does need a little touching up. And this knife was handmade by a fellow YouTuber that makes knives here and there, and I saw him and liked him and emailed him, or got Corey to email him, and he made this for me. Real nice knife. It's made out of a saw blade, and it's got some walnut handles with, I think he said chestnut inlays in them. So it's the old trade knife style knife, and I like those. They're really hard to find, you know, that people that make them, because it's not as once sought after as it once was. But I really do like it. And the guy that made this knife is Justin Peden from Spirit of the Outdoors. He has a YouTube channel. You should check him out. He's a good dude. Makes good knives. I really enjoy watching his content, and he makes good knives. So I'm gonna see if I can get this thing touched up just a little bit. It's got just a little bit of dullness in the end there. And what I generally use is just like a DMT sharpener. You can get these off Amazon in different grits. These things are kind of color coded to what grit they are. This green is really fine, and the red is a little bit rougher, and then the blue side's pretty coarse. So if one's really, really dull and you need to cut it a little, I'll start with the blue and then go to the red and then finish with the green. And then once I get done with all that, I've also got a strop here that I'll use to finish it off with. And all a strop is just a wooden paddle with some leather glued to it. One side of mine has some sharpening compound on it, and the other side's just clear leather. Once you get done sharpening the knife, you can run it across this, and it will kind of polish the edge and make it just a little bit sharper. So generally what I do is just kind of by feel, find the grind of the knife, and then just back and forth across the stone. They make sharpeners that you can actually will set the bevel and set the grind for you, and you can't really mess it up. And I think I used one of those many years ago when I was young, but I prefer just to do it by feel and just freehand it this way. I've done it long enough now to where I can kind of tell what it needs. That's just the way I like to do it.
Is that like a knife kit that has the little, I'm trying to imagine it in my mind, don't it have little screw things that you screw, and that helps you with the, like you're saying, get it in just the right position?
Yeah, the one I had was it would set the angle of the grind on your knife where it would be the same on both sides, and you really couldn't mess it up. And they work great. I just prefer to do it this way, just simply because, you know, setting the thing up in that thing takes a little time, and I don't really need to do that anymore, so I just don't use it. But they do work good. That's
probably a good thing though for beginners, like
right.
When you were a boy, when you probably got one for Christmas or something.
That's when I got one. It was, golly, a long time ago, and I believe I've still got it.
And that way you could, kind of shows you how to get the feel of it, and then, as you said, at years of practice, then you kind of know if you're somebody that sharpens a lot of knives or likes to have a sharp knife, then that would probably be a teaching tool.
Right. It would be, and then the more you use it, it kind of gives you kind of a repetitive thing in your mind, and you begin to learn and begin to see and feel what it really needs, and then at some point you don't even really need to use something like that anymore. Right, that was at least my experience with it.
We'll try to find one and put a link in the description below of the description of the video if you'd like to see it. Then there's all kinds of like sharpeners, electric sharpeners and things like that. You don't, of course, need to use those, but do you think that would be a good option for someone who didn't know how to sharpen knives at all, or didn't have any interest maybe, except other than needing a sharp knife?
Yeah, they'd work good for that. The electric ones I don't like at all. It's real easy to mess a knife up with them. Although I think Worksharp makes one it's specifically designed for people, outdoors people and hunters. And they work good. I just feel like that it takes the skill out of it, and it took me a long time to get this skill, and I don't want to. Right. I want to keep using it. This is the old way, and that's why I like it.
Right. I was just thinking about for people that don't, it's just like I said, more or less, they don't really do outdoor stuff. They just need a sharp knife in the kitchen. Right. There's also those little ones you can get that you just pull the knife through. Just, what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like kitchen knives and that sort of thing. And they'll, I don't really like those very much because they're just really, really hard on the knife edge. They'll sharpen one really quick, but I mean, if you looked at one like under a microscope real close and looked at the edge of it, it's pretty rough. It's pretty damaging to a knife edge, I think, and I generally don't like them. Although they do work. I mean, if you're somebody that don't enjoy sharpening and ain't gonna learn, how to do it the correct way, and that's all you got, then they work fine. But I would much rather learn how to do it the right way, like this, and be able to do it this way, because the edge is a whole lot. It's a whole lot better edge, and it will last longer. Your cutting edge will last longer. So I just went across the really, really fine stone on that. Now I'm just going to use the leather strop, and that's going to be all this thing needs. And I always go away from the knife edge of these things on this leather, or it'll cut it. I'll just go a few strokes on this side with the compound, and then I'll flip it over and finish it off on the other side.
I'm about to have a buddy.
Yeah, I'm about to have some company right here, looks like. And that's going to be about all that needs. That's pretty sharp.
Going to test it on your.
You can always.
Test it on your arm.
Probably. Well, I could, I guess.
I have such good memories of Daddy doing that. When I was a little girl, that's how he would check to see if his pocket knife was sharp.
And it shaves it off, so
Yeah.
it's pretty sharp. So that's all that one's going to need. I'm going to put it back up. And it's basically the same thing with the axe. Although I'll probably, instead of drawing the axe across it, I may just run the rock across the axe a few times. It's a little bit easier to handle that way. And once again, it's fairly sharp. Although it does have one ding in it right there, it's going to take some work to get out, but I'm not fooling with that today. So I'll just do it this way. And then flip it over. Goodness, I don't know what's had a hold of that, but it has damaged it. So I am going to have to, can't even sharpen it. It's got a roll place right there in it. So I'll have to hit it with the rough one a few strokes.
So those places, that comes from chopping wood, or maybe somebody.
I've hit something that I shouldn't.
Like maybe chopping through something and hit a rock or something like that.
Yeah, maybe something like that. I try to not do that, or try to chop on anything that will damage the edge of it. I'm pretty careful and pretty particular with knife edges and axe edges both. But that one's really got a ding in it. That'll take some work. I'm not going to do that today, but for demonstration purposes, we'll do at least just knock the roll off of it. It's pretty sharp.
What kind of axe is that?
This is
or a hatchet?
It's called a hunter's axe. It's a short version of a. It's a little long for a hatchet, but it's a little short for an axe. But it's actually called a hunter's axe, and this one's a Gransfors Brooks hunter's axe. Really high quality stuff, and it's reflected by the price as well. But they're really, really well made.
Where did you get that one?
I got it for Christmas from a sweet little lady.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking. I thought I bought that for Matt 2 years ago or something, and that was when a lot of the supply chains were broke down, and it actually didn't get here at Christmas. Then I thought it would get here I think it would get here at your birthday, and it still didn't. And then when did I finally give it to you? Like
it was
maybe
about September of the next year.
Yeah.
So it took about 10 months later to get it.
And really nice gentleman. He kept, telling me, I'll refund your money, but you're such and such on the list. If you want to hang in there, it's just up to you. And I just kept, stayed in touch. So I was just like, okay. Now, one of your axes, that's why I was wondering if it's that one, a friend gave you the head of it. Somehow he come in, I don't remember how, but wasn't it a real nice one too?
Yeah, it is. It was a Holtzbrook axe.
Yeah.
And I've got it upstairs. And it's a great axe. But I kind of put it aside once I got this one because I like it so much better.
And I know, just because I've seen you do it, like that axe or this other larger one laying here, they did not come with those marks on the back. So would you explain? You want to tell about that?
Those are just 1-inch measurement marks that I burn into it with I used a propane torch and a nail. I previously measured it and made little marks with a pencil, and then burnt those in just to have a way to measure in the woods if you needed to measure something to cut or whatever, and it's just an easy way to do it. And each one of those marks is 1 inch, and this one will go up to about 16 inches as far as that one will go, and this one has it as well, and it'll go a little further just because it's a longer handle. Actually, this one has a longer one right there, and that's the 1 foot mark. All the rest of them are inches up to that one. That's a foot, and then the rest of them are inches again.
And that's just a handy.
Just a way to measure something in the woods without having to carry a tape measure or something like that. And these little DMT sharpeners are really, really good. I've used these for a long time. And when they get wore down and the grit begins to wear off of them, I just buy more just because I like them so well.
How long do they generally last? Just a few months or maybe a year? Or
well,
I mean, it would depend, I guess, on how often you're sharpening, but for you, how long do they last?
They'll last me a year or so, and I sharpen a whole lot. But I mostly, like I say, I baby the edges to the point to where mostly all I have to do is that fine edge. Most of the time I don't have to go back to these coarser edges, unless I damage something like this, and I didn't even realize this one was damaged, but I'll fix it later on. It's not all that mandatory to fix. I'm just a little picky about it. I don't like to see a nick in my cutting edge. And then once I get through with that, it's the same thing with the strop. Just a few licks on it. And I'll flip it over to the back side. And this axe, being a hunter's axe, it has a rounded pole on it, and it's meant for skinning. It's meant to be able to skin an animal with it, and it's rounded to where you could get the hide started pulling apart from the meat, and to save your edge or your knife edge, you could literally put this in there and pound it between the skin and the carcass of the animal, and that'll separate it, and it being rounded keeps it from puncturing the hide in case you wanted to tan it or sell it or whatever you wanted to do. And that's why it's made that way. I've never used it for that and probably won't. I just like the general geometry of this blade pretty much more than any other axe I have. It just has a really, really good feel to it, and I like the handle, and it's fairly lightweight and carries easy in the woods, and I really, really like it. It's the reason that I wanted it, not so much for that skinning pole, but just because I like the way it felt. And these are made in Sweden, and they're fairly expensive and kind of hard to get axes, but they're well worth the weight on it. And there's other axes too that are less expensive, American made axes that are very good too, and I've got several of those. I just really, really do like this one.
What's the name of it again?
It's a Gransfors Brooks.
Gransfors Brook.
It's a Swedish nut. And the funny thing is, this one is a Husqvarna axe. And from what I understand, these are basically made in the same place, out of the same steel. And this one is much, much, much less expensive. And I've had this one for several years, and I really like it. It's a little bit longer axe. But it's made in the same place, as from what I understand, and the steel is basically the same. And I think this one was, I bought this one at our local saw shop for like $50. And this one is somewhat more than that. But it's a really good axe as well. I've used it in the woods and in the wood pile quite a bit. It's not generally suited to split wood with, other than just campfire wood, just simply because the bit is thin. If you're a wood splitting axe, you'd want this bit to be somewhat thicker, like a wedge, so it'll literally split the wood. These axes are made to be used in the woods for just all kinds of different things, from chopping firewood to building your camp to skinning to whatever. And you can see these bits are quite thin. This one's even thinner, this hunter's axe.
You can see the coffee's beginning to percolate in the bubble. Matt's letting it percolate, but he's moved it off to the edge of the stove so it won't be going so hard.
And these things, these higher end axe heads with the good steel in it, they take a good edge, and they'll really trim something up. You can get some really fine little shavings with it if you want to. And that's generally what I use to start a fire with, is these shavings off of this fat wood if I've got it. But any wood in the woods, if you can, especially if it's been wet, you can split it and get to the inside of a piece of wood and then skin off these little bitty shavings. You can get those to ignite quite easy. So that one's fairly sharp. So that one's good to go.
Coffee sure does smell good.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's good.
Smell.
Huh?
Smell.
Smell, yeah.
Yeah, smell good.
That's good stuff.
That's what Pap would have said.
Yeah, smile.
Smell.
Yeah.
It is good on a cold day, I'm sure. Hot chocolate is too.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to go outside, but Matt's right. We went out on the porch and I was like, it's way too cold. And it was way too windy too. The thing about wind is, filming with a camera is hard. Wind makes it difficult, even in the bright sunshiny day. If you don't have something you can get like a sound reducer for wind and things like that. So we have one on this camera, but a lot of times when we're outside walking, we might use, a cell phone or something, and we don't have one for that. And then you just get to hear the roar of the wind.
And what she ain't telling you is, she let me get all my clothes on and get outside, and then said, I can't do this.
I did. Poor Matt, he'd already put on his coveralls.
Yep, it is cold. Yeah. If you're going to be out in it, you got to get dressed.
Yeah. And
can't go out in your drawer tail.
No. It was, it is cold, but it was the wind was what was it's just cutting wind, and it is blowing pretty hard.
Yep.
Blowing hard. We've had a colder winter though this year.
It's been pretty cold. We went through some wood.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned.
We may have to get Thomas to bring us another load.
Well, I've got a bunch out there that needs to be busted, but my goodness, I should have busted more before it got this cold.
Well, it's colder winter than we've been having.
I'm going to end up out there in this cold of busting it, I reckon.
Granny told me, I think it was yesterday I went down and see her. No, was that yesterday? It was the day before, Wednesday. But I said, are you staying warm? And she said, yeah. She said, this is a winter like we used to have. This is the kind of winters we used to have, this cold.
Yeah.
I said, yeah.
I remember it used to be colder sooner and colder and stayed colder longer than this business now of getting cold and then warming up and cold and warming up. And it didn't used to be, or I don't remember it used to be that way.
Yeah. Which it is supposed to warm back up by next week, be in the 60s, I think, or up to 60, upper 50s or something.
I think I'm going to wait till then and try to bust
Try
some
to
of that
bust
wood.
the wood.
Yeah, I think I'll baby along with what we got until then.
Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit about how Matt does his sharpening. I know Matt would have the same advice I would for things like that. There's great to read books or to get like that, the guide thing Matt was talking about, the kit. And of course I know there's probably videos where people are giving you direct, like how many degrees angle to the sharpening stone or whatever. But mostly it's just practice.
And generally, when I buy a knife or I've got a knife, or axe or whatever it is, the bevel that it came with, I just try to follow that. And once you've pulled it across the stone a few times, you can feel where that is. You can literally feel it. And that's just, each knife's a little bit different, each axe a little different, and I just, after a lick or two, I can feel it, and then I just repeat that. But now I've done it a long time, so I kind of know how to do it. I mean, if you don't follow what comes on the knife, it's a long time sharpening it, because you're literally changing the bevel that's on it. And for the most part, I don't want to do that. I mean, I'd rather just buy something that had a different bevel than I would to change the one I got.
When we mentioned those, like the knife, the electric sharpener, Miss Cindy had one of those, but before she moved out here, then she'd just get Matt sharpener knives. And she had the kind that you pull through, makes my teeth, it's like the sound of nails on a chalkboard. I can't do that. If somebody's using one of those, I got to go in another room. Makes my teeth itch or hurt or something. But those work if that's all you had, especially for kitchen knives, thinking about kitchen knives. But then also I've noticed heard people say in different places, it's pretty common, so it might be in your area, is that you might be able to find somebody that's just what they do. They sharpen knives. So you like take all your knives to them and they sharpen them, for payment of course, but then that does you until several months or a year or whatever, till they get dull again, and then you take them, there's like a service, an individual or a service that'll sharpen them. So that might be a possibility too.
I literally have a grinder over here under the workbench that one end of it, the rock, literally sits in a tub of water, so that you can sharpen tools and sharpen knives or whatever, and it runs in that water and keeps it from getting too hot. That's the enemy on a knife blade or axe blade or whatever. If you're doing it with a electric tool of some sort, you get it too hot and it'll take the temper out of it, and then it's kind of damaged from then on. That's for the most part why I don't like it. Don't like using them. I'd just rather do it by hand. It's more old-timey anyway, and that's kind of what I like.
When I was growing up, Pap didn't really use axes, or like Matt has all the huge knife collection and axes. That's just what he's into. It's funny, Miss Cindy loved those things too. Anyway, but Pap didn't. But he always had, of course, pocket knives, and he kept it really sharp. And so in his chair where he sit there at Granny, at our house, or even, after I was married and gone, he still sat in the same place. The chairs may have changed over the years, but it was always the same place. Anyway, he had a little table there and, of course, a lamp. Usually his Bible, some other kind of junk, whatever, laying around. But he always had like 3 or 4 whetstones stacked up there, too, so that his knife sharpening was handy. It was right where he sat,
Right.
You see a lot of those older men like that that's had knives, especially pocket knives. You see them sometimes that have been sharpened to the point they've used them so much that they're just thin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got one or two of those that I've had. I finally put them up just so they wouldn't get broke, you know. Particularly one of them, me and him was together when I bought one. He bought one, and I bought three, and it's sharpened down fairly thin. And I ended up just putting it up just because I could remember the day in there with him buying it, and I just didn't want to break it and didn't want it to be unusable, so I just put it up. Started using another one.
And then along with that, like Matt's talking about getting thin, then your whetstone, if you use it for a lot of years, it gets like that too. So he had one like that too.
Yeah, they'll get those old carborundum stones would get a belly in them, sharpening on them. And I've got one or two of those. I really don't use them anymore. Once I found out these DMT sharpeners, and I kind of like those, so that's just what I use. When I stumble upon something that works good and is more efficient, in other words, then I'm all about that. Something that's not efficient is an irritant to me.
And he would have liked that too. I mean, he would have liked those if he'd known
Oh
about them.
yeah, I can guarantee you he would use them because he was the same way. I mean, something that would work better, then he was all for it.
It's in all my years of researching and writing about Appalachia, which has been a long time now. March will be 16 years. Can you believe that? 16 years. Crazy.
You might be getting a little old.
I am getting old. Anyway, but often you'll come across scholars, different people in the past. I'm not saying not so much today, but especially talking about people of Pap's generation and previous generation to that, my Papa Wade's, and but their unwillingness to change. Like they're just like some people want to look at it like they live this really remote rural life, and they refused to change anything. Now, part of that is true. You're stubborn and set in your ways. I'm stubborn and set in my ways. There's things I don't want to change. But that always tickles me because I've just never come across anybody, think about that. I'm thinking mostly about the kind of my elders of Appalachia. I've never come across one of them who, like Matt said, if that was an easier way of doing something, sharpening a knife, would say, no, I want the hard way. They'd say, why, I didn't know you could do something like that. You think you could get me one of them? I mean, they just readily adapt and take it,
Yeah.
But that's kind of one of the, I think, myths or whatever is that, especially in, like I said, mostly in days gone by, was like they refuse, they will not, and I'm like, I've never really known any of them that was like that. They were like marveled over, reminds me of Miss Hicks, Granny Hicks, about how when she got the first washing machine, how her life changed. And she didn't say, no, I'd rather keep going to the creek and washing them.
Yeah,
she was like, boy, I'm something now. Look at all these extra hours I've got. And that was not even a washing machine like we have today, of course. But
well,
anyway.
I'm a little bit I mean, you can look at it that way with the electric sharpeners and stuff, because I just won't use them. Even though it would probably be quicker and everything, but it's not that I don't want it. The reason I don't want to do it, I want to maintain the skill of being able to do it by hand, because you may have to if you don't have electricity.
Yeah.
It's more of a self-reliant type of thing, in other words.
Right, but I'm talking about the increments of like from a whetstone to those stones you're using, not necessarily giving it up at all, but or like quit washing your clothes and take them all to a dry cleaner and let them do them. It's just that part of a tool, a new invention that would help you. It's not like they would turn their nose up at it. They would embrace it like the rest of the country and the world.
Right. Boy, it's good coffee.
You may be wishing you made more.
No, I don't need, I've already had a bunch today. I don't need much more. But I like it. I like it in that pot for sure. And wood stove makes it just a pinch better.
It does somehow, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
It does. Well, we appreciate you coming visit with us today, and hopefully next time we go on a walk, maybe. No telling what we'll be doing by next week, though.
We may be hoeing corn. You don't know.
We'll be doing. You will be really impressed if we're hoeing corn. If we manage to do that before next week, that'd be really impressive
Yeah,
there.
that'd probably be a TV crew here
Probably
checking
yeah.
us out.
Yeah. We're always grateful though when you stop by to visit with us and help us celebrate Appalachia. Things like the old percolators that Matt still uses, and of course those skills like sharpening knives and axes.
Oh my goodness. That's so good.
I just have to take your word for it. Mine's good too. Hot chocolate.
Smell it.
It does smell good. Of course, I need to put some cream in mine.
You ever hear tell people putting butter in their coffee?
I have, before we left, when I was still at Tri-County, one of the IT men was on like this diet, and it was like a fasting and thing, Randy, and he done like in the morning, I don't remember if it was at a certain time or what, but that was part of the fasting part. He could have coffee with butter in it.
And then the butter's like a fat content, I guess.
Yeah, so I remember that.
I've never tried that. I wonder what it tastes like.
I don't know.
Maybe I should try that.
You could, yeah. You probably wouldn't like it, but you could try it.
It's hard to beat that just like it is.
Sitting by the stove makes me sleepy.
It's too hot for me.
Oh, it feels good. Feels wonderful. It's supposed to get really cold again tonight. I think it'll be 11 in the morning. And they'll let maybe 10 Sunday morning or something like that.
And it's going to begin to warm up, hopefully. Not so much hopefully, just other than I feel like a failure if it's cold weather and then there's no wood in here. I feel like I've done something terribly wrong.
Wow.
So I'm hoping that it'll warm up enough for me to go split more wood so I don't be looked down upon by my peers and those around me.
Oh gosh, nobody ain't looking down on you. Hope, and if it,
There's some awful judgmental women lives here.
no. When, if the weather improves some, Thomas will be able to come and work on our trees.
I'll be able to get some wood out of that.
Maybe. Most of it's like poplars and stuff though, ain't it?
Yeah, there is a maple, a pretty big maple, I think, in that. And I'll keep that. I may have him cut an oak or two that's up in there too, and I'll definitely keep those.
Yeah.
But I don't want to cut these up here close to the house, but
I wish I could know, and maybe you can help me. I'll put a ribbon around them or something just to make sure they don't squish them, but there's 2 sarvis trees in that curve. I mean, they're like this big around. They're so small. You know, we used to have a sarvis tree out here behind the chicken lot. I hadn't seen it in years. It used to be like I'd notice it blooming before anything else early. I hadn't seen it. I don't know what happened to it.
I may have cut it.
I
Just
don't think so.
not knowing.
But anyway, I'd like to save those 2 because they're right there together. But I don't know. When you get big machinery, I know what happens.
Yep. It's hard to save that little stuff with them machines.
Yeah.
He's pretty good about stuff like that, though.
Oh yeah, he is.
I mean, he'll try to.
I'll look. I don't know if I can tell which is which, but there's a sassafras tree on the bank too. Thinking about that on our driveway.
Is Sarvis berry and Sarvis the same? Is that two different things?
It's the same.
But
It's
it's
just
just
the way we're
called-
saying it. Sarvis. It's service. Sarvis. Appalachian way to say it.
Some that mountain slang.
Yeah, like smell. Sarvis
Yeah.
instead of service.
Hillbilly
Now,
inflection.
Sarvis berries are tasty. You remember we found some. The problem is if they're, if it is a big tree, there's at the top. How would you get to them unless you're really industrious like they were in the old days?
Right.
But remember, was that the year that was the pandemic year, 2020? Was that it? And we were hiking way up there, and the blueberries. Remember? But remember, we come through that right when we were going into that area, and we could tell the bear had been there. But remember, he had climbed a sarvis tree, and that's what was the branch was laying there with the berries on it. So we got to eat them thanks to a bear. Of course, that wasn't but a handful. They're tasty though, but most of the time they're in the tops of the trees.
But that place where all those huckleberries or whatever there was on the ground, where it opened up and it was really pretty in there, that's pretty.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I'd been there, but it'd been years and years ago.
Yeah.
The way we went to it is most definitely not the way to go.
No,
But it's good to look at new ground, new territory. It's just steep and thick.
yeah.
But I like to go in a place like that I've never been and look around.
Oh yeah, I do too. Makes
Maybe,
you
maybe
feel,
just not when it's 90 degrees.
well, makes you feel like it's one of those. You're one of the pioneers.
You remember how hot it was that day? It's brutal.
I was tired at the end of that day.
It's good for you though.
Oh yeah. I'd like to do it again.
Yeah. Maybe we will.
Have a little ankle biter with us.
Yeah. A little crummer.
A little crummer with us. Well, two before you know it. Two little crummers. Ankle biters. Crumb crunchers. What you used to call Corey and Katie.
And crumb crunchers, yeah. It don't take them long to get out of that stage, Joe. Before you know it, they're old enough to be yapping that jaw back at you.
Oh, yeah. Old enough to be asking for the keys to the car.
Right.
Go with her to the post office. Ship cookbooks, and she's got to ship her stuff.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I've been trying to get to shoot that bow all day long and I ain't never got there.
Well, you go shoot the bow, and I'll
It's
go to
just
the post
awful
office.
cold.
It is cold.
I guess I'll come back out of my shirt when he's done with it.